You die, you come back, you die again. And somewhere between the 100th death and the 101st, something shifts. You stop being frustrated, and you start to understand. That's the moment Dark Souls stops being a game and becomes something else entirely. Dark Souls was released in 2011 by FromSoftware, directed by Hidetaka Miyazaki. It was not supposed to be a mainstream success. It was too strange, too silent, too unforgiving. It gave you almost nothing. No map, no quest markers, no hand-holding, no explanation. Just a broken world and the quiet suggestion that you figure it out yourself. And somehow, that silence said more than most games ever manage, with thousands of lines of dialogue. Miyazaki grew up reading fantasy novels in English, a language he didn't fully understand at the time. He pieced together stories from fragments, filling the gaps with his own imagination. And that experience became the foundation of Dark Souls, a world you don't receive whole, a world you reconstruct, slowly, from broken pieces. Item descriptions, architecture, the placement of a corpse, the expression on a boss's face before it charges. The world of Lordran is dying, not in the way most games show a world in danger, where danger is temporary, where the hero can fix it, where the ending exists and it's good. In Dark Souls, the world has already been dying for a long time. The kingdoms you walk through are not recently ruined. They are ruins of ruins. Civilizations that rose, collapsed, were rebuilt, and collapsed again. What you're walking through isn't tragedy. It's repetition. A cycle so old that no one alive remembers when it started. And at the center of that cycle is fire. The first flame, the source of light, of disparity, of the difference between hot and cold, life and death, light and dark. It's fading. It has always been fading. And the entire history of Lordran is the history of people trying to stop that from happening, or choosing to let it go, and failing either way. This is the first philosophical layer of Dark Souls, impermanence. The Buddhist idea that nothing lasts, that clinging to permanence is the root of suffering, that the correct relationship with the things you love is to hold them loosely, knowing they will end. The fire will fade. It always does. The question isn't how to stop it. The question is what you do while it's still burning. Now let's talk about dying, because in Dark Souls, death is not a punishment. It's a teacher. Most games treat death as failure. You made a mistake. You pay a price. You try again. Dark Souls treats death differently. Every time you die, the world continues. Enemies respawn. Resources reset. The hollows who wander the ruins keep wandering. The world does not pause for your failure. It simply goes on, with or without you. This is almost directly the Stoic idea of memento mori. Remember that you will die, not as a threat, but as a clarification. Death is certain. The question is how you move between now and then. Dark Souls makes that question physical. Literal. You feel it in your hands every time a boss kills you in 2 hits, and you have to walk back through 3 rooms of enemies to try again. And here's what the game knows, that most games pretend isn't true. The walk back is not the punishment. The walk back is the point. The repetition, the patience, the act of continuing, despite having already failed. That is the entire philosophical argument of Dark Souls compressed into a game mechanic. Nietzsche called this the eternal recurrence. What if everything you've ever experienced happened again, infinitely, in exactly the same order? Could you live in a way that, faced with that thought, you wouldn't collapse? Dark Souls asks you that question every single time you press the respawn button. Can you do it again? Not because it gets easier, because you choose to. The bonfires deserve their own conversation because they are one of the most quietly powerful images in the history of games. A bonfire in Dark Souls is small, modest, a collection of bones and broken swords burning in the dark. You find them in corners, in alcoves, at the ends of long, difficult stretches that almost killed you. You sit down, the world goes quiet, and for a moment, just a moment, you are warm. They are not salvation. They don't fix anything. The enemies will respawn. The darkness will continue. The fire will eventually fade. But right now, in this moment, there is light, and light is enough to take the next step. This is the game's answer to nihilism. Not a refutation, not a solution, just a bonfire, just enough warmth to keep moving. And the suggestion that sometimes that's all meaning ever actually is. Now the bosses, because every major boss in Dark Souls is not an obstacle. It's a philosophical argument made into flesh and sword and despair. Sif, the great grey wolf, guarding a grave out of loyalty to someone who died long ago. Not because it helps, not because the person is coming back. Out of pure, stubborn love for something already gone. What is loyalty when there is nothing left to be loyal to? Sif answers that question with its body. Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, the most powerful being in the world, who chose to sacrifice himself to keep the fire burning, to maintain the cycle, to prevent the dark from coming. And what did it cost him? His mind, his identity, his name? By the time you reach him, Gwyn is hollow. The greatest king in history, reduced to a mindless guardian of a flame that should have been allowed to fade. The question Gwyn raises is one of the oldest in philosophy. Is it better to maintain a broken system because it's familiar, or let it end and face the unknown? Gwyn chose the system, and it destroyed him, and that brings us to the ending, which is famously a choice. Link the fire, sacrifice yourself to extend the cycle, keep the world as it is for a little longer, or walk away, let the flame die, let the age of dark begin, let whatever comes next come. Neither ending is presented as correct, neither is dramatic. Both are quiet, almost disappointingly quiet for everything that came before them, and that quietness is the point, because the game has never been about the destination. It's been about what you learned on the way there, what the dying taught you, what the bonfires meant to you, what it felt like to beat a boss after 20 attempts and feel, genuinely feel, that you earned something, not because the game told you that you did, but because you knew it yourself. Miyazaki has said that Dark Souls was built for people who have experienced difficulty in their lives, not to make them feel better about it, but to give them a space where difficulty has meaning, where every obstacle can be overcome, not through power or luck, but through attention, through patience, through the willingness to die and stand up and try again. That's not a game mechanic. That's a philosophy, and maybe, if you've ever sat at a bonfire after a long stretch of dying, feeling that warmth, you already knew that.